Welcome, everybody. I'm assuming everybody can see me and hear me correctly. I will just hold on for half a minute before starting. I will start with my screen from this point onwards. Yeah, that should be it. Okay, so as I was saying, welcome everybody, and for joining us today in this webinar regarding the Turbowave initiatives and the particular aspects of how the call for tenders was issued last December. Okay, so first of all, I will present myself. I'm Enrique Letorrega, project manager here in the Basque Energy Agency. So this is the agenda for this webinar. As you may notice, it's slightly different to what was published in the as part of the code, just because in the process of making the slides preparation of these slides today, I thought it was more appropriate, more convenient to explain the things in a particular order for it to be a bit more clear. So we're doing just some introductory words here, a bit of housekeeping. But we're going to start by providing some background about the initiative, just trying to explain the rationale why we're kind of sitting here today listening to this webinar in the first place. Then we're going to try to identify the Turbowave challenge as it was stated or raised, let's say, by Eve. And then we're going to move on to the specific aspects of how the call for tenders was issued, how the contracting approach will be managed, payments, some explanation of the eligibility, special criteria, and award too, and try to explain with a bit more some high level of, not high level of that, sorry, from a high level perspective, the IPR management obligations and provisions that were incorporated into the tender documentation. Finally, I will try to give some advice or little remarks on how, say, potential bidders should be, how the procedure they should follow, let's say, to apply to the call. And then finally, and this is one of the aims for this session today, is try to have some space for everyone who is on the other side, let's say, of this webinar to pose their questions and answers. And even though I have allocated some times after the presentation is finished, I think that the best thing to do here is to raise those questions through this interactive chat that you have today. So in the moment they are triggered in your minds, just try to write those down in that chat, and a colleague of mine here will be capturing those and we'll be trying to answer those towards the end. So I really hope I can deliver today's content, which is quite extensive, in less than an hour. So it's not, too heavy for everyone to survive. But let's see. And hope everybody is, really and eager to share some thoughts, comments, or questions that it's for benefit of everyone. Okay. So to begin with, let's say I wanted to make like a big disclaimer, because, well, the intention today is to provide an overarching view of the, as I was saying, not only the background, but also how the tender documentation was laid out, let's say. But again, this is a human being here who's going to be speaking pretty much solo for the next hour. So, mistakes have been made. I may say something that may potentially be contradictory with what has been written in the call for tenders. And so I just wanted to remind that the documentation as it was published in the Plataforma para la Contratación Pública de Euskadi is the single point of truth of this initiative. Moreover, the Spanish version supersedes other in case of contradiction between the different languages, supersedes what's being written in the others. So in case there's any particular doubt of how something is written, for example, in the English version, which may be the case, wrong references or whatever, I would like to, first of all, invite you to double check it with the Spanish version. And if the question or the doubt persists, there is a mailbox there. I hope every one of you is aware. That's Turbowave at in which I will be more than happy to answer or clarify doubts to the degree possible. Okay, so that's, I just wanted to raise that disclaimer very early into the presentation. So as I was saying, we try to provide some background on, where we're sitting here today. On the first place, why EVE is pushing this initiative. Okay, so who is EVE actually? EVE, or the Basque Energy Agency, and this is how we refer to ourselves, let's say, sometimes in the international ecosystem. Well, EVE's mission is to propose energy strategies for the Basque Country based on criteria supply security, cost competitiveness, sustainability, which is very relevant here, and technology development, which is also relevant here. Okay, and then to participate in development of these strategies and contribute to actually, the country meeting the targets establishing those strategies. Okay, and on the other side, EVE as an organization, I would say, is relatively experienced in implementation of similar actions. Indeed, we promoted, we undertook a wave energy demonstration of PCP back in 2018, and we are also part of the buyers group. I would say a majoritarian part of the buyers group in the Turbowave PCP, which is another pre-commercial procurement aspect in which we are currently involved. This is started in 2021 and will expand to 2026, and it's about the development of wave energy converters as a whole, let's say, as a whole system solution. And besides that, EVE has or allocates, ring-fenced annually 2.5 million euros of funds, let's say, to the demonstration program since 2018. That is, yearly, we put on the table 205 million committed to support any testing development activities for demonstration in the BIMEP area here in the Bay of Biscay. Okay. In particular, what refers to the rationale of the initiatives. Well, as you may already know, EVE was the promoter and the owner of the Mutriku Wave Power Plant. This is the first commercial wave energy plant in Europe. It's been operating since 2011, and it's, I would say, it's not only the spearhead, but it's the world by far in cumulative production from wave energy, having accumulated more than 2.7 gigawatt hours by October this year. Okay, but it is also kind of an undeniable fact that the current systems are approaching, if they haven't surpassed their end of life design. The regional developer of the turbines, which was Voith, has discontinued and the product development. And on the other side, the state of the art of the wave power and the air turbine system as a whole has significantly evolved since that date back in the past, into 2011. Overall, it is also true that significant knowledge has been gathered here in-house, let's say, about operational experiences, the specific challenges that the system face when having to operate in the particular conditions of the Mutriku Wave Power Plant. Okay. So when trying to kind of tackle this reality or this solution, this is the thought process we followed. Okay, so the first question was, are we able to replace the existing solution with some already available solutions in the market that we can procure just by regular open procedures? And after some screening of the sector, we came to the conclusion that no, this wasn't possible, because of the say R&D gap necessary, because the solvency, the particular conditions of a standard procurement weren't really applicable to the potential supplier of these solutions. On the other hand, is the system a solution in which, by means of incremental adaptations, specifically referring to integration or customization, will something in that line be able to deliver that solutions? We also thought that this wasn't the case. There was still the need for active R&D in this particular area. But on the other hand, we were also thinking that yes, we wanna substitute the existing ones by best in class available in the market right now. But can we really commit to procure what's coming out of a R&D process? And we really thought it wasn't wise, because there was an inherent risk of failure of R&D. I mean, as any other R&D, the success of the solutions may not always be the case, particularly when we start in pretty low TRL levels. And this is why we opted for a PCP, because the solutions needed to prove themselves by means of demonstration and competitive phase approach to demonstrate that they were able, or potentially able, to deliver a reliable solution in a future open procedure, or dedicated to the substitution of the outclass systems. Okay. And on the other side, which is also an interesting aspect of the innovation procurement, is the solution we're aiming for particularized and only applicable, let's say, for the Mutriku Wave Plant needs? And we thought, well, not really. Possibly, and there are some specific challenges for the operation of systems in Mutriku, but these are not inherently different to other potential solutions, other potential applications for such systems, such as other Mutriku Wave Plant in the world, or similar systems, or even offshore deployed systems. So that if we were to develop a PCP, there was a potential for a wider commercialization of such systems. So the PCP was indeed an interesting instrument to foster this innovation. Okay. So, well, once we kind of opted for the pre-commercial procurement as the best, or the best suited instrument to canalize, let's say, this initiative, then it's good to say, well, what is PCP? Okay, PCP challenges the industry from the demand side, that is our particular demand, the solutions for the Mutriku Wave Energy Plant in terms of air turbines, and provides the first customer reference that enables the company to create some to commit to the R&D task, because otherwise, if they don't see a market or a demand pool, let's say, they won't just and risk their own resources in such developments. Okay, and on the other side, for the public procurers, it enables us to compare alternative potential solutions, filter out the best, and avoid say locking to one specific contractor, for example. Okay, when is PCP applicable? We think that there are no, I mean, there is a need for a step change R&D, let's say, to say there is a need for new say disruptive technologies to come in and provide a step change improvement in what's commercially available. What could potentially fit those demands. It allows us to compare solutions in a final shape comparison scheme, let's say. But this is still on the procurer side. It will still be too risky to commit for a large scale open procedure. So it's not available. It's not possible to define a final budget, a final solution, or some specifications for that final system. Okay, and then it is also good to increase the size of the available pool of technologies that could potentially be in a position to satisfy those demands. Okay, so as you were saying, PCP. In PCP, the sector buys R&D services, and this is an important nuance, let's say, to steer the developments that we need to satisfy our solutions, and to collect info about the ups and downs of each of those proposed solutions. Okay, eventually this doesn't foreclose, let's say, the possibility of a follow-up PPI, for example, in whatever form it would take, in which proven technologies, or technologies that have reached some specific maturity criteria or performance criteria, either as part of a PCP or due to regular market development, could be potentially providing solutions for that, say, follow-up PPI or follow-up open procurement procedure. Okay. So this may be a graph that you have seen in the past. PCP covers essentially in a phased approach, development activities, starting from the solution design. It usually sets up like a minimum threshold, let's say, but under the PCP scheme, the contractor will typically start by implementing the some conceptual designs, moving on in an increasing level of detail to a prototype development or type of testing or whatever, and then there is a demonstrator phase in which a scaled limited volume of units will be tested in relative realistic conditions, and that would serve as a benchmarking experience, let's say, for the public procurers to see how promising are technologies, how to what degree they are able to satisfy the functional requirements as they were stated in the challenge, let's say in the PCP sort of beginning rationale. Okay, as we were mentioning earlier, usually, but not necessarily, PCP may continue by a follow-up PPI in which either suppliers participating in the PCP or others that have reached that level of development in the market could potentially apply to a procurement exercise which is much more close, let's say, much more similar to a standard procurement procedure and is ruled under the public law of contracts, etc. So yeah, actually, as we were saying out, it's about R&D services and usually covers from theoretical, for example, to up to 6, 7, 8, depending on what particular conditions of each PCP. Okay, so as I was saying, this split between PCP allows the public procurer to get better value for the money, use a competitive PCP with a relatively low to mid budget to the risk like a larger procurement exercise, and also prevent some foreclosure of competitions and lock-ins, etc. Will be could happen if we would push in a straight, for example, innovation partnership or whatever. Okay, and it's also true that because of there is an European directives of regulation regarding how PCPs should be implemented. Usually, PCPs are more SME friendly because open standard procedures for acquisition of systems usually come with very stringent guarantees, turnover requirements, technical and solvency criteria, pre-qualifications, and this is usually what makes SMEs be subcontractors of standard procurement procedures rather than lead bidders. But in this case, PCP is specifically suited for small innovative companies that, in a way that these requirements grow as the value of the contract grows in size. So because it's split into different phases and smaller contracts, let's say. So what we did essentially here in EBE, once this identification of the suitable alternative or the suitable instrument was done back in 2022, what action did we take? Okay, so back in the spring 2022, we conducted an open market consultation, which is one of the requirements that the European directive sets, that is to pulsate or to explore the market in some particular aspects. In this case, we wanted to check whether our internal assessment that the availability of already existing solutions in the market was correct, that there wasn't anyone there able to produce a commercially readily available solution that could have been procured by standard practices. It was also interesting to identify the potential candidate for whatever innovation procurement procedure we opted for, clarify which of the innovation procurement instruments could potentially suit better the interest, say the available pool of technology developers, and try to identify whether some preliminary budget and schedule we have drafted was actually suitable, it wasn't enough, or how the market was perceiving that. Okay. And when we closed the open market consultation exercise, and the outcomes we were, that are summarized there in the slide, we received 14 proposals, and that did actually confirm that yes, there could be, there wasn't any readily available solution. They were very interesting and promising concept, but nothing was, as I was saying, commercially readily available. The number of participants in the PMC also pointed that potentially, if we were pursuing an innovation procurement, there would be sufficient competition strengths to ensure this multiple sourcing phased approach, and that would deliver ultimately the best value for money for the public procurers. And as such, we sort of gave green light to the initiative and say, well, so far it looks good. Let's just move forward with this. Okay, so Then, as we stated, the challenge at that moment in time, well, the Turbowave initiative seeks to tackle the design, development, and demonstration of safe, reliable, and cost-effective air turbine system matching the needs of the Mutriku Wave Power Plant. This is the overarching challenge we are going to tackle. Okay. And yeah, how are we gonna actually assess the solutions? Okay, so in this we were trying to mirror a bit in the EAOS framework, well, it is true that there is no specific adaptations of such framework to components within the wave energy sector or any other. There were some obvious evaluation areas that could potentially match. Specifically, if we look at the whole, wave energy conversion system, which is the OWC chambers there in Mutriku, and as such, we identified that the most relevant here would be the performance. That is to assess the capacity of the solutions to capture and convert efficiently the wave energy power into electrical power that is grid compliant. The system should be controllable, that is, should be able to operate in a broader, in the most probable range of sea states happening there in Mutriku. System should be reliable, and for that we are asking to have a demonstrator campaign and a real, 12-month, full-year wave climate for the developers to demonstrate that those solutions were safe, reliable, across all the possible wave climate scenarios, and also that we were somewhat readily or easily maintainable, because at the end of the day, if we set up an expectation here that the system should be at least 10 more years after they have finally been installed, then because we are the owners of the plant and we are responsible for the maintenance and operation of that, this is something that we need to definitely address, because we know we do have some experience in how that's done there in Mutriku. And then finally, as an overarching area, well, affordability, and that is the cost of the system, at which cost the system is able to deliver electricity, that grid compliant electricity to the grid. This is something that was also very relevant to monitor. Okay, so from these high level, evaluation areas, well, we were able to identify some functional requirements. These are relevant. These are already, as we were saying earlier, these are set values. These are not, it doesn't mean that, if you do some math and you see, well, we're not able to reach 30%, but we're able to reach, 29, 27. These are target values. And as such, the ability of the systems to reach that threshold is something to be demonstrated as part of the execution phase. So, yes, we could take them with a pinch of salt, but I think they are, achievable, reasonable objectives to set out on the first day. So let's see how this unfolds anyway, but yeah. Okay, so in what regards performance, we have a target increase, let's say, for an average annual pneumatic to electric conversion of around 30%, which is where we stand today, to somewhere in the range of 50%. That's what refers to conversion from pneumatic to electric on average. But as you already know, the PO, the power takeoff itself, does interact with the primary capture system, and as such, we were also aiming to, let's say, that each chamber as a whole would ideally see an increase of the annual electric power delivered to the grid from 20 megawatt hours, which is broadly where we stand today, to 28 megawatt hours per year, by means not only of the increased conversion efficiency, but also by means of increasing availability, primary capture, etc. Okay, and of course the expectation here is that the solution should be replicable at plant level. Let's say it's not aimed to have a system that is only operable in whatever turbine. It should be something that ultimately may fulfill that vision we have. Complete overriding substitution of the systems for Mutriku in the future. Okay. So in terms of controllability, we were speaking earlier about the range of operational conditions in which the solution will be able to should be able to operate. So the target here will be to aim for whatever sea state between 0.5 and 4 meters. If we take a look at the wave climate that was shared as part of the technical documentation, that will cover, I would say, the most significant part of the occurrence. But again, we'll see how I know this is not as simple because, period also comes into play, etc. But I think it's a good starting point to, to not focus on a system which is only operates for a small amount of hours in a certain wave climate, but rather, is operational in a rather efficient way as a broader wave climate rates as possible. In terms of controllability too, the system should be able to stop autonomously, let's say, the operation when those conditions are met, either from the low energetic extreme, let's say, or in the high energy states. I mean, the expectation here is that no manual intervention is needed, and the system is fully aware of, what is the wave energy influx, let's say, and is able to autonomously operate that and decides the best strategies to optimize and behave. Also, well, there is a need, of course, because during phase 3, the expectation is that key parameter data should be recorded and to evidence the outcomes of how promising the solution is. Then the system proposed should be able to record key data to demonstrate, it's able to deliver those, for example, performance targets, let's say, and it's able to communicate with existing SCADA systems to not only operate the NCP, not only provide performance data or key operational data, but also be easily maintainable, operable, just put it to operation, stop it, whatever, as the current systems do allow. In terms of reliability, well, the expectation here is that the design life for the solutions to be tested in Mutriku is 5 years. This only relates to the fact that, well, once we set out, we're going to try to, on the 2025-2026 calendar, then, of course, there's always the chance that, that's the worst possible wave climate in 100 years and everything can go wrong. But this is a way of, safeguarding to some degree that the prototypes are not too fragile in the case that something is, the conditions what we see there are a bit harsher than usual to some degree. So, yeah, this is a requirement for materials, and design life that should cover all the subsystems deployed during phase 3. Okay, and a specific mention is done to the particularly harsh conditions of the system in the turbine hall because at least currently the air is exhaled, let's say, and inland for the turbine hall, and as such, that's a rather moisty and salty environment and quite challenging for power electronics mechanics and bearings and on and on. Okay, and also regarding the reliability and the safety is key. We could refer here, for example, to sea levels or whatever, but this is a bit something to be say tackled to the discretion of the bidders. But the expectation is that systems should be inherently safe. That is against the power failure, against some most common failure modes. Let's say should be able to stop safely and ensure integrity of systems as a whole under all scenarios. Let's say. Then in terms of maintainability, well, the target we have stated is whoops, sorry, there's a mistake there in the table, but the target we are setting is that we should aim to systems to be installed let's say in somewhere around 3 hours, which is sort of something that we see it's in line with the current solution. This is again a target value. Let's see, I'm conscious that the solution can be more or less complex, but let's see how this unfolds, let's say. And then regarding the preventive maintenance yearly, well, of course, we need to design systems that are maintainable and preventive maintenance. I'm conscious that sometimes the failure rates of prototypes are very difficult to predict. It's something that you learn by doing, but we should aim for a solution whose preventive maintenance is at maximum 30 hours per year. Okay, so we don't get up in a too complex and failure-prone system that is a headache to maintain for us in the long run. Okay, and finally, in terms of affordability, we are saying this is the overarching evaluation area. We were aiming to a solution that is, ideally is adaptable. It's suited for Mutriku, but it's adaptable through reasonable modifications to other OWS oscillating water column system, whether they are on shore like Mutriku, attached to some coastal protection or even potentially floating over the system. So there should be a solution that has the potential of a wider commercialization. That is a key aspect of the PCP. So yes, it needs to be suited for Mutriku, but we should always aim for a broader range of applications. That's the operational context. That's it. Okay. So as was pointed out earlier regarding TRLs and PCPs, well, we thought that for this particular PCP, it was a good starting point to ask the potential bidders to demonstrate the completion of TRL2. That's kind of, I would say, kind of early in the TRL scale. That's something, a concept that has been formulated is probably enough to apply for this. Some of indeed, it's one of the, I will see it later, one of the aims of phase 1 is to produce some conceptual designs of how those general concepts will be suited for the application of Mutriku. Okay, and then because we're aiming for a 12-month fully realistic operation conditions to some degree during phase 3, one could argue that fully realistic conditions are only applicable when we have a sufficiently long testing campaign in which you have experienced very extreme sea states, etc. This is something that is a bit out of control, but we could easily claim solutions after completing that testing campaign. You should be able to claim TRL 7 at this point. Okay, and then we also saying, well, ideally bidders should also propose technology qualification plans and that should guide the engineering activities across all the phases. And to this degree, it would be good if this development pathway is relying upon, let's say, some recommended practices available in the market for how technology qualification should be accomplished, let's say. Then we try to identify some reasonable budget and a schedule for the whole action. This is, I think the overall figures are nothing new. The overall budget for the whole PCP action is 3.2 million euros. Sorry, there's a mistake there because the full duration of the initiative is no longer 42, it's 39, just because, and this one I have highlighted, the duration of phase 2 has been made a bit shorter than was stated earlier, from 12 months to 9 months, because it was reasonable to do so. Anyway, phase 1 of Turbowave PCP is expected to cover essentially concept design activities. The expectation here is that budget should be around will be around 100k euros maximum per contract, with an expected duration of 6 months. And this is the expected number of contract, which is not a minimal number nor a maximum number, because it depends on the bids we receive. Actually, is 6. 6 would be a sufficient number that would allow us to reliably push forward this final scheme, let's say. And I will particularize a bit later, but the expectation is that contract execution for phase 1 would start on first quarter of 2023. We'll see if this is possible. We'll have to start on the very beginning of Q2 and span across to 6 months, as I was saying. After that, towards the end of this year, we will be conducting the first phase gate, in which we will be receiving applications for phase 2. That will be about model refinement and dry lab testing. The expectation here is that budget, the duration, as I was saying, is now 9th month. The expectation here is to assign award for contracts of a maximum amount of 300k euros. Okay, and then towards the end of 2024, we will be conducting the second phase gate, which is narrowing down selecting, let's say, for those who have successfully finished phase 2, down to 2 contracts or 2 technology developers on phase 3, with a total budget of 700k euros for some contract duration of 18 months, in which they will be asked to design, fabricate, and test their systems during 12 months continuously in Mutriku Wave Power Plant. Okay, so essentially the the program is expected to end in, I think it's mid-2026. Okay. So back to the objectives and target outcomes for each of the phases. Well, phase one, as I was pointing out earlier, is say the objective for phase one are to perform the development of the conceptual engineer for the Turbowave requirements. That is, picking a concept that is rather, I would say, broad or not particularized or general, if you wish, and try to, by learning what the particular conditions of Mutriku are, apply that concept and try to set, by doing so, try to set some benchmark values for example, for those evaluation areas, performance will be in this range, and this will be expected to be in this range, conversion efficiency, capture efficiency, etc., and so on and so forth. Calculate the energy output, let's say. Sorry about this. Calculate the energy yield, energy output for phase 3 deployment to the degree possible, and to demonstrate that the proposed concept design, let's say, is interesting according to those metrics and in line with on track, let's say, to provide expected outcomes for the end of the program as a whole for phase 3. Okay. Again, the target outcomes here will be to demonstrate that the proposed system is conceptually suitable for the deployment in phase 3. That we should also be able to estimate the base performance at phase 3 test set, which is the Mutriku, using some robust and recognized numerical modeling at this point, because some physical evidence tentatively in this phase yet, provide some clarity on how that the proposed concept advances or makes a significant step change with respect to the state of the art of the air turbine technologies available there, and also conduct like a thorough assessment of which are the key risks associated with not only with the technology, but also with the particularization of that technology to phase 3 test sites, and support this with some credible mitigation strategies, let's say. And overall, there should be, as I was mentioning earlier, the system should be, the phase 1 activity should be to demonstrate that the whole, say, concept proposed is feasible, both from a technical and commercial perspective, and as such requires, is worth advancing to the next phase. Okay, so the mandatory deliverables we have set out for phase 1 are the ones you can see here. It is important to note that this is as is expressed there, those are minimum mandatory deliverables that could be further, ideally could be further complemented by a broader set of deliverables from the contractor, in a way that if other the modeling activities, for example, are captured, if there's some CFD modeling and it's suitable to have a report covering that. Again, this is just the bare minimum, but the expectation is that bidders, complement this set with, the set of outputs they deem necessary to appropriately capture what they are proposed to do during phase 1. Okay. So, deliverable 0 is essentially a public abstract, which is technically should be the only part of the proposed concept that EVE is able to share with as part of its promotion and dissemination activities. So it should be some brief kind of overarching view of the concept proposed. And then deliverable E1 is about it's a report containing the action carried out, how the technology development plan and the commercial development plan has been actually developed and executed throughout phase 1, and which is the long-term vision of how the results produced during the execution of the PCP are expected to be managed, let's say. And then E2 is an end of phase deliverable in the should reasonably summarize the main conclusions regarding the concepts, the conclusions drawn from these initial adaptation studies of the concept to the particular conditions of Mutriku, and how that system is able to fulfill the functional requirements that we have stated on the first place. Regarding phase 2, the objective for phase 2 is to improve the accuracy of the numerical models to capture with a higher level of accuracy the characteristics of the system proposed, to test in laboratory conditions in a controlled environment a representative scale model of such system to provide evidence that this concept, with all the with all the uncertainties of limitations or constraints of dry testing, but the claims can be backed by some experimental testing, and the developers should conduct a critical analysis on those experimental results obtained in a way that those should validate the numerical models that were ultimately the tools used to project phase 3 and post phase 3 post zero wave target figures for the evaluation areas for the performance of the system as a whole, let's say, for the value proposition of the system as a whole. And then at the end of the day, they're expected to demonstrate on the basis of the trials and those refined efficiency and cost models that the system is still attractive and able to deliver the functional requirements that we set up at the beginning of the initiative. Okay. Again, target outcomes for phase 2 are at this point we should have some particularization of the solutions for the specific of Mutriku Wave Power Plant, because the information available of the plant, let's say, will have increasing level of detail at this point too. They should should be able to, backed with this dry lab testing, be able to say, look, the system as we plan to build it and test it in Mutriku will be able to deliver this amount of power. This is our expected figures for across all the evaluation areas, and to also have worked out some a rather credible, let's say, estimations of how the technology will perform in terms of affordability, that is potential capex and opex, not that much for the phase 3 prototype, but rather on a future potential commercial solution. And as part of the ambition for phase 3, they also identify what they plan to do to actually demonstrate that technology's features, let's say, during phase 3. And as I was saying, again, overall, that the proposed system has the appropriate level of technical and economical feasibility to continue advancing through the PPP program. Okay, I'm not going to enter into the deliverables for phase 2. Those are already set out in the tendering documentations. Okay, it's a bit more extensive than the ones for phase 1, but again, probably nothing new there anyway. For phase 3, the objectives are a bit more complex because we are aiming here for a full year testing campaign. So the objectives will be to validate the proposed approach of how the commercial scale system would look like by some manufacturing, commissioning, installation, and testing of the system in Mutriku Wave Power Plant. To while that first unit is being produced, try to identify the main challenges of, for example, manufacturability of the solutions. If we move for lighter commercial systems, also to demonstrate the sustainable power production of the systems, doing through some reliable and continuous operation of the phase 3 prototypes in those 12 months. Demonstrate the survival strategies element, because during those months we will have some winter season, and that's going to put some strength into the prototypes, but they're expected to be able to cope with it and prove they are survivable and reliable in that regards. Also, because that's as I was saying, that's a full 12-month testing campaign. Then plant operation and maintenance should happen, and the feasibility of those plans and the suitability of the maintenance plan proposed should be demonstrated practically, let's say, in those 12 months by the technology developer too. Then at the end of the test, the system should be uninstalled, installed in the phase space and then uninstalled at the end of phase 3 in a rather non-complex way, ideally. And overall, as the general outcomes of those 12-month strategy campaign, the system should be able to demonstrate that the power performance, the power capture, let's say the energy yield, is in line with the estimates made during the both the numerical and dry lab testing in the previous phases. Okay. And because we were saying that PCP is also about the potential of a wider commercialization of the solution, then in parallel to the technical task, expectation to say with increasing level of detail to develop and implement a commercialization strategy for the arising IPRs, let's say, the polarizing solutions, and how the developer will, tackle the potential markets, and how he will, make the jump to attack or face that market with its solution. Regarding the target outcomes for phase 3, well, the phase 3 projects are expected to, as I was saying, be able to demonstrate compliance with the functional requirements of the Turbowave challenge, demonstrate continuous power conversion, controllability, and reliability, have some, validated with real testing both in dry lab and in Mutriku Wave Power Plant, real tested numerical models to predict performance supported by some real data, meet to the degree possible the performance target values that were set out in the functional requirement sections, demonstrate the validity and robustness of the proposed strategies for survival, installation, operation, and maintenance. Identify, if there's some, lessons learned, and there will be for sure after those 12-month period, then, there is some end of phase 3 kind of risk assessment that would need to take place for, and develop to see, well, this is still the gap that needs to be covered before we go for a fully commercial solutions, and this is how we propose to tackle it in whatever term, let's say, if the opportunity arises or whatever, and then identify the main cost elements of that potentially commercial solutions, and the sensibility or the the uncertainties associated to that cost estimations in regards to material components, etc. In order to have that work done to optimize, let's say, in future developments. And then finally, to identify some business opportunities and engage with potentially future customers and partners to continue with the development, and ideally start with the commercialization of the proposed solution. Okay. So again, this is which is the information that was provided along with the call for tender documentations for the potential bidders to propose their concept. Let's say, well, several knowledge gathering activities have been triggered, starting in 2021 actually, and around 2022, that has been running in parallel to the preparation of this PCP. For that, we have accomplished a detailed characterization of the wave climate. This was shared as part of the tender documentation, not only the occurrence matrix, but also the return period, etc., which should fit at least at the preliminary level the proposed concept, let's say, and how those will particularize for the Mutriku Wave Power Plant. And also regarding the dynamic modeling, there was also some effort to, because this is a huge source of uncertainty, let's say, or it has been in the past, and we were also making the first step in, first of all, characterizing with increasing level of detail how one chamber behaves and how chambers interact with the others. So this is one of the question posed, for example, was whether this was going to be made available, and the answer is yes, but the expectation is that hydrodynamic coefficients will be shared during phase 1 executions for the developers to have that information fit into the design and produce their basis of design, etc. So as I was saying, these are kind of activities that have been or will be launched on a rolling basis. They will be running in parallel. We have already kickstarted some higher, I would say, higher accuracy modeling, propagation modeling, and some validation campaigns to reduce the uncertainties related to both the wave climate and the hydrodynamic modeling. But again, this is something that we'll have to interact closely in terms of identifying the needs and the potential gaps, uncertainties related to that, in parallel or in conjunction with, say, PCP awarded developers within the Turbowave PCP. Okay, so we can convert to something in the long run. Okay, then let's move on to the particular aspect of the call for tenders. I see some questions there posted, but as I was saying, I will try to tackle those later. Okay, at the end of the presentation. So, okay, which is the contracting approach we have followed? For those of you who are have experience with the PCP, this is probably nothing new, but this is how the European Commission advises to conduct a PCP. That is, there is a framework agreement which is signed at the beginning of the PCP for those awardees, let's say, that successfully enter into successfully get into the program. We will sign a framework agreement that is say not subject to negotiation and will be of validity all across the initiatives, and that rules the rights and obligation on both parties in aspects such as IPR management, confidentiality, and lots of things to cover. So particular attention should be made to reading these legally binding documents. And then as the execution of PCP advances, successful bidders will be offered call of contracts for a specific scope they are proposing with the specific durations of those phases. So essentially, you will be signing a framework agreement and then 6-month contract. That would be a very simple document. The templates have been shared as part of the documentation, which ultimately only refer to a proposed scope and an economical offer associated for the bidders. Okay. Regarding the payment scheme, this is kind of particularized or developed with a bit more detail in the tender documentation, but overall, we were speaking earlier that this should be SME friendly. So in that regard, we have established that 30% of the contract price for all 3 phases will be made effective, let's say, at the along with the signature of the call of contract. So that developers have some kind of positive cash flow there to set the ball rolling, and then the remaining 70% is paid by means of successful clearance of technical milestones. And this particular is a bit differently in different phases. So, for example, in phase 1, the only milestone was the end of phase 1 because it's quite short. So, the remaining 70% will be paid at the end of phase 1. But then, for example, in phase 3, there are several intermediate milestones, pre-testing, etc., that would trigger essentially the payment associated. So, and another thing to mention is that deliverables should be, at least mandatory deliverables are linked to payments or, to the consecution of technical milestone, and those will be linked to payments. That is, you need to deliver the mandatory deliverable for that milestone to be considered clear satisfactorily, and that will trigger the payment accordingly. So, in effect, developer, for some reason is late on delivering or submitting a deliverable, there's no way we can pay for that. So yeah, just bear that in mind that at some point, this is a thing that you need to consider. Regarding the eligibility of the potential bidders, well, participation in this PCP is open in equal terms to all types of organizations for any country. It's not even restricted to European Union or something like that. It's open to, say, pretty much all the world, and it's regardless of the geographic location, size, or governance structure. But of course, for phases 2 and 3, the participation is limited to tenders that have successfully completed the preceding phase, that is, successfully cleared or satisfactorily cleared the technical milestone and has been, of course, as a consequence, paid for that. So yeah, there's the need for all contractors to finalize phase 1 contract before they can actually submit an eligible bid for phase 2, and that needs to happen at the same point in time for all phase 1 contractors. That is in order for them to compete in equal terms. So this is something to be reminded too. Well, those who have participated in the open market consultation and also in this webinar do not have any inherent advantage, nor is this a condition to submit a bid, for sure. And yeah, we were trying to be as open as possible also in the form in which different companies could interact themselves to propose a bid. So single operators could submit bids, temporary joint ventures or UTEs, as we call this in Spain, which is a legally established consortium. So this is the equivalent in I would say in Saxon word or international vocabulary. Let's say it could also submit a word. Also consortium, which is non-established, non-legally established association of companies could also submit a joint tender, and of course any of those could potentially use subcontractors, and subcontractors are indeed evaluated as part of the project team. So yeah, essentially at some point it is also possible to identify some placeholder for subcontractors if we don't have any clarity to deliver that. But yes, yeah, the use of subcontractor is perfectly fine. They do not need to be part of the consortium technically. Okay. Sorry, and first valid point is duplicated, but then it is important to note that no limit on subcontracting percentage is applicable, let's say, but that the lead but only one level of subcontracting is allowed. So you cannot subcontractor cannot further subcontract it to another company, and then in any way the lead contractor, which is either of course the single in the case of a single tender, or the representative of the temporary joint venture, or the consortium leader, is the fully responsible with regards to EVE for the performance of the contract, and it's also liable for the access omissions of the subcontractors established, let's say. So one of the questions we were asked was whether a subcontractor could potentially participate in several proposals, and the answer is definitely yes, as long as this is a contractor and it's not part, for example, of two legally established two UTEs, for example, or two temporary joint ventures. That's a suitable scenario. Not suitable, but scenario is more accurate. Okay. Regarding the solvency criteria, this is further developed in two different aspects. On one side, we have sort of the financial or risk, risk coverage criteria. That is as a document as prior to awarding. That is not part of the current bid, but if you are ranked in the top 6 or whatever, and you are offered a call of contract, then you will be requested to provide evidence of this insurance is in place. Okay, so in this case, the civil liability insurance policy for professional liability insurance for an amount equivalent to the maximum budget for each of the phases. So for phase 1, that would be 600k euros, phase 2, 1.2 million euros, and phase 3, 1.4 million euros. Okay, as I was saying, this is not a prerequisite to submit a bid, but rather if you are selected, before actually being able to sign a contract, you'll be given some extra time to provide this as part of an extra set of documentation. On the other side, there's also sort of the technical solvency criteria, and this means having some previous experience with commercialization of new products, of managing industrial intellectual property rights, having some organizational structure aimed at guaranteeing the management, exploitation, and transfer of intellectual property rights, and having some equipment, materials, and personnel able to deliver. But it is important to notice that here the demonstration of this feature is not mandatory. That is, EVE reserves the right to request this information if he is not satisfied with what was provided as part of a bid, but this is no way something that needs to be mandatorily provided. Again, let me state it otherwise. If you are, again, selected as one of the top 6, to make it simple, then you will be asked to provide some pre-award documentation. For example, the risk insurance demonstration that the risk the insurance policies are in place, and also in case EVE would like to pursue this option, we could also ask to further clarify in a written way how the contractor will or is able to demonstrate this being in possession of these conditions. So again, don't be too scared about this anyway. Also, regarding some special criteria, well, there is also this is a prerequisite of PCP being a services contract. And so more than 50% of the budget for the whole PCP needs to be about R&D services. That only, and what's R&D services? That is anything that's not essentially materials or equipment. I mean, if the contract would be above 50% if more than 50% of the contract would be about providing materials and equipment, and then it could be stated that it's a works contract, and then could potentially be challenged. So this is something to bear in mind too. Of course, phase 3 and does have some materials equipment implied. Probably phase 2 also has, but my expectation here, at least personally, is that this shouldn't be an issue for this particular initiative anyway. Also, you will be asked to declare some or make some declarations about compatibility with other public financing, and the system is conceptually suitable, let's say, for phase 3 test sites. And also, there is the requisite to establish a guarantee corresponding to the 5% of the price offered in favor of EVE that will be provided together with the documentation prior to award. Again, this is not something that needs to be in place for submitting a bid, but rather, again, if you are in the top 6, we will call you offering a call of contract for phase 1, and then requesting you for that to materialize, to provide some extra documentation, and this evidence of this guarantee being set in place will be one of those. Then, going to the award criteria, it is obvious that tenders will be scored against some technical quality award criteria and some price award criteria. Here, following the guidelines for the European guidelines for the implementation of the PCP, we have a stick to the 80-20 split between technical and price score. It is important to note that the proposals will be evaluated by a panel of internal and external experts. Essentially, external experts will be a majority in that panel, so it's not going to be us kind of saying who's going to move forward and who's not, because we want to offer some transparency guarantees to the bidders with regards to the proposals, and in order to facilitate, probably for you the submission, but mainly for us the evaluation of the proposals, we have provided a template for that offer, identifying what's being asked where, and identifying also some maximum extensions on the for each of the sections. Okay, so that is ultimately aimed to facilitate everyone's job anyway. So on a high level, and this is how we have broken down the points to be assigned. The level, because we are seeking for a step change, disruptive innovation to some degree, the level of originality and innovation of the system proposed, of the concept proposed, and does have some 10% weight on the final score. Then the technical and economic feasibility of the solution proposed accounts for 25 out of 100 points. The capacity and the degree of completeness and effectiveness of the proposed solution to meet the challenge that we stated it has a significant 25% points out of 100. and then the proposed R&D plan and methodology to be followed accounts for the last 20% to make it 280. Okay, and then we have the price criteria for that final 21. So going to elaborate that a bit more, as we were saying, the level of originality, which is the potential of the innovation proposed to significantly improve the state of the art, accounts for 10 points. Please note that there are some minimum thresholds that I hope are not an issue, because I really trust the bidders on the other side. But well, of course, this is something that we cannot simply let pass bad proposals because there are no enough good ones to fill the budget. So there are some obvious minimum quality thresholds we need to respect, and that's pretty much 50% of the total variable score for all of the subsections. Okay, so regarding the technical and economic feasibility, that breaks down into a high-level description of the technology, that is the fundamental operating principle of the technology, and the credibility of the proposed strategy for operating the system and maintaining it. Here, maybe the operational part is how it should operate, let's say, is of particular importance. Then the relevance of the previous numerical and physical modeling of that system is part of the evaluation too, and the suitability on the bidder side of the say availability or the capacity they have to implement models, with which tools, with software, which experience they have to manage that, and how that confirms a picture that gives us confidence that the proponent is able to undertake phase one activities with solvency. Regarding the technology risk assessment, we're giving here a template, and the aim is that the proponents should be well, with a degree of knowledge or the detail they have on the system at this point in time, perform like a technology risk assessment and say, well, this is my concept, this is the weak points, and this is potential failure modes, potential risk associated to the subsystem that compose it. Also, there are some external factors coming in that may potentially impact positively or negatively into the viability of the solution. So what's being assessed here is the actual risk assessment, and how complete that assessment is at this point in time with regards to of course we are speaking of TRL2 solutions, but and how how diverse, how suitable are the range of risk identified, how appropriate the proposed mitigation measures are, and whether we are completely overestimating or or not, or seeing the things through some rose-tinted glasses with regards to probability and risk associated with some of the subsystems or components there too. So this is a key part that would ultimately, ideally, the work plan should be driven in terms of engineering activities by this risk assessment, in a way that if the system is particularly weak in some areas, or is exposed to some component failure, then the work plans should ideally propose an action to mitigate that risk throughout phase one, essentially. Then also another aspect to be evaluated is about the vision and strategy for the technology development and marketing of the management solution. Because, again, this is embedded into the PCP nature. So right from the beginning, we will ask you then to say, well, this is my concept. We know we're TRL2. It's very early, but yeah, this is how we what we aim for in terms of this is a solution that aims to tackle the offshore floating webinar systems, or whether it's more suitable for onshore system because it has some particular aspect that makes it has some unique selling points that are specific interest for that sector, and how you plan to develop that technology in phases in a way that it's de-risked, and also how the subsequent IPRs arising for that development are planned to be managed. Let's say. Then we have the capacity, the degree of completeness, and the effectiveness of the proposed solution to meet the challenge. That is, okay, we set out some functional requirements as part of the challenge definition, but yeah, in particular, how does the proposed solution tackle the increase of performance? Is it by incorporating a novel rotor system or a movable guide bench, or is it by the conjunction of several factors, optimizing the control, optimizing the generator aspect, etc. So the expectation is that here the bidder should describe how the proposed solutions are able to tackle with the functional requirement proposed in line with the targets identified, and why they think they can provide an attractive offering for us in that regard. Okay. So finally, we have the R&D plan, which essentially covers the description of the project teams, who's going to do what, breakdown of proposed activities for phase 1. That is, we're proposing to do X, Y, Z activities. Project team member A, B, C are going to do this, that, and then this is, in a relatively high level manner. This is an estimated work effort associated. It's not going to be binding. It's not, this is not a grant base in which we will ask them to, justify whether you actually spend those work hours or not in doing so. It's just for us to see whether there's an overall consistency in the capacities, the effort, the activities, who's doing what, and whether, a member project team is there to bring some actual value to the activities and not just for buffing a proposal because the name looks nice and then that's nothing actually as part of the activities, for example. Yeah. Then we will also be asking to propose a set of deliverables beyond the mandatory ones. We're saying the deliverables, the output should be structured in a way that they provide evidence of or record, let's say, of what has been done under the activities proposed in section 4.2. So it's a task or high-level task, let's say, should be ultimately captured in some way in one of the outputs or the deliverable documents. Also provide a schedule for those activities to unfold during the following 6 months, and specifically how the methodology, let's say, for implementing the project execution is planned to be delivered. So that whole set of criteria will make it to the 18%. Regarding the price, there's nothing much I can say. It's a formula that is stated in the tender documentation, so nothing more to add there. It's just it will ultimately link to the final bid. Maybe it's good to mention that, even though the only part that will be assessed will come into the formula is the final bid, let's say the final number, then we are also asking you potential bidders to provide like a breakdown of organizations, cost estimation, estimated equipment, materials, cost, etc. This is for to check the compliant aspects of the R&D services, but also I think it's good for us to see, as we were saying, that we are seeking for consistency between activities proposed, role of the members, efforts, budget. So it's not I would say it's for informational purposes in any way, but it's another way of checking, the consistency as a whole of the proposal being submitted. Okay. Then, with regards to intellectual and industrial property rights, okay. So this is quite a complex aspect. It's I can give some high-level kind of views here or information, but as I was saying, it's complex and it's a lot of legal wording around. And as I was saying, the best thing to do here is to very accurately read all the rights and obligations that are acquired by both parties according to the framework agreement, which is the ultimate document that regulates these aspects. Okay, but what it is clear is that according to the PCP rules, the ownership of the pre-existing rights, the pre-existing IPRs remains on the generating side. That is, if there is an IPR that is brought as part of the project by EBE, remains in EBE. Same for the contractor. If there's some background IPRs, that will remain unchanged, let's say. So for that sake, we will be asking you bidders, let's say, to maintain a list that identify what's background and what's the necessary background that enables the bidder or the execution of the PCP, and thus production of the foreground interoperability, let's say. And what it is true is that both parties acquire or have the right to access the other's pre-existing rights for the exploitation of the results generated during the PCP, okay, under fair and reasonable conditions and on exclusive basis. That is, if the is a part of the PCP, the contractors ends up needing something that is part of a IP, part of the IPR of EVE, and the other way around, then this there is an obligation there on the other side to collaborate with that aspect. Again, what refers to the fourth one, that is the project results, what's being generated as part of the execution of the PCPs. Okay, so let me pick some extracts for the framework agreement, capturing the conditions that rule out these aspects regarding specifically the ownership of the project results. Okay, yeah, let me check the hour. Well, I'm running very late. Sorry. Okay, the contractor generated the results in the PCP will be the owner of the generator of the IPR. So you will be the owner of the IPR arising for the execution as a PCP. But and the contractor, I mean the bidders, will hold the exclusive exercise of the exploitation rights of the solution developed in any form and modality worldwide. That needs to be clearly stated, okay? But the contractor will grant EVE an irrevocable, indefinite, worldwide, royalty-free and exclusive license to use without commercial purposes, that is internally and with no additional cost, all the project results. That is, we are acquiring the right to internally use the solution, okay? And we could also ask the contractors to grant licenses to third-party companies under fair and reasonable market conditions. Again, which specifically these conditions are, this is more detail is given in the framework agreement. But again, this is always subject to agreement and negotiation with the contractor. So it's not, you're not you're not asked to be giving out your IPRs to a third party by twisting your hands or your arm, let's say, by EVE. It's always subject to a negotiation and mutual agreement, okay? Okay, there's also, the contractor also acquires the obligation to protect it. I mean, it is of interest to both parties that the arising IPRs are adequately protected. And furthermore, say if the contractor is undertakes the obligation to appropriately protect the arising IPRs, and as such, if it fails to do so in a deliberate way, EVE can actually reclaim back the IPRs. I mean, this is should be always ruled by agreement, but there is an expectation on both sides to protect it. This doesn't mean an obligation to actually patent. I mean, patenting is one of the ways to protect the IPRs, not necessarily the only one, because that IPRs cost, and there are also some uncertainties regarding to that probably. But yeah, there's that obligation needs to be identified clearly. Okay. And regarding the exploitations of the IPRs, there is an obligation undertaken to by the contractor, or by the contractor actually, to make some necessary diligent efforts to try to exploit commercially the solutions, okay, and try to implement the technology development plan and the commercialization plan that are being delivered as part of phase 3. Okay, so this is with the aim of, we are not finding a concept that then ends up, picking up dust in someone's table, because there's no interest to pursue. These are provisions that aims, for example, if we would push a follow-up PPI, but the contractor who were part of phase 3 does deliberately take the decision to not put a bid to that one, for example, that could deem as failure to potentially commercialize if no other action is taken. So there are some ways in which we are trying to protect that the that the bidder or the contractor does actually want to exploit or further commercialize the arising results of the project. Okay, this is the whole spirit. That said, I mean, legal word, accurate legal words are captured in the framework agreement. So you are all. I would also recommend to take a close look at that. Okay. And yeah, if there, as I was saying, if there's a failure or unwillingness to develop a commercial solution further, there are some clauses in which some callback could be claimed by EBE. Okay, and regarding the financial compensation, let me go through this a bit quickly because we're conscious of time. Well, this comes for the fact that the contractor retains the IPR as part of the contract, so it needs to be compensated financially in order to comply with the European stated regulation. Okay, so as such, and that could take form, for example, of a strong rebate versus the commercial offering. But besides that, what it has opted for is to establish royalties, which equates to or equals to the 8% of the net annual sales, limited to innovative solution protected by the IIPRs, let's say, for a period of 30 years. And as such, there are some provisions for the monitoring and auditing of the say revenues that the contractor would obtain for such solutions, and some obligations that survive, let's say, the beyond phase 3. Okay, so this is how we could probably state it at a high level. Okay, so finally, just to remark that, as you already know, all the documentation is published in Basque, Spanish, and English, but as I was earlier, the Spanish version prevails. So I'm cautious that some probably paragraphs have not been ideally translated to English. So I would encourage you to have a look at what's being written in the corresponding section in Spanish, for example, and try to clarify that. And if the doubt still persists, just don't hesitate to drop a question into the Turbowave mailbox, because we're keeping record of the questions that are being posted there, and that's going to be updated regularly into the platform with all the anonymized questions and all the answers provided by us in a bundled way, let's say. So yeah, as a consequence of the above, bids can be submitted in any of the above languages. And yeah, you will be asked essentially to identify in which language you wish to proceed with the execution of the contract. Okay. So finally, which is the timeline, let's say, for applying to the call? Okay, so we are doing this webinar here. Well, we have raised the idea of conducting a technical visit to Mutriku, but also because this webinar has been slightly delayed towards the initial dates. I'm conscious that it may be challenging, but anyway, I think it's good to don't kill the idea yet, because it could be fruitful. So I will ask all the interested parties, let's say, to express their interest in a potential visit to Mutriku next week. That is, for example, by 1st of February, 6 o'clock in the afternoon here in Spanish time. Please be sure to express your interest to attend the visit in Mutriku if you think that's of your interest, for sure. For the 2nd of February, we will try to confirm whether the visit is actually, say, feasible or possible. And the date we will be aiming for conducting this visit is on the 7th of February in the morning. Okay, so if there is enough quorum for that, enough appetite for that visit to take place, we would be potentially hosting that visit next Thursday. Next Tuesday. So the reason for that is we will have anticipated in the documentation that the deadline for submitting queries was the 8th of February. So we're trying to be loyal to that date, and then the deadline for us to answer to any question posted either during the visit or during the Q&A in the mailbox, let's say, is the 13th of February. But the big day to bear in mind is the 16th of February, 12 o'clock Spanish time. That's the deadline for the submission of the bids. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, key dates here. If you're interested in attending the technical visit next week, just let me know as soon as possible so we can arrange that accordingly. Okay. And then the timeline for the whole program was already anticipated earlier. Probably no big news here then. But I mean, we're expecting to notify the awards in March 2023 after the evaluation, because we're asking for some pre-award documentation that we will reasonably need to give you some the successful bidders, let's say, some time to secure that. So it's probable that the contract execution won't begin till probably early April 2023. And as we were saying, that will span across 6 months, ending somewhere in October 2023. From that point onwards, phase gate 1 should happen between November and December 2023, and we'll be aiming for beginning of phase 2 activities in January 2024, and extending till October that same year. Again, end of 2024, we're going to go through the phase gate 2 and select the 2 most promising technologies to begin with phase 3 contracts from January 2025 till possibly June 2026. Okay. So one final remark before moving to the Q&A section. Well, regarding the PCP, I'm not myself an expert in the tool, but what I know for sure is that an electronic signature and accepted and suitable electronic signature capacity is needed, and this has posed some problems with international companies specifically in the past. So because this is a prerequisite, please engage, try to make your electronic signature or check that it works as soon as possible. And if it doesn't, just contact the support people there in the PCPA and let us know if we can help in that, so we don't have any last moment panic moments where you are unable to submit, etc. Because the PCP, the Plataforma Pública para la Contratación de Euskadi, is the single point, is the only way of submitting a bid to this tendering procurement exercise. So this is please ensure that you have this ready and going before the 16th of February. Okay. In that regards, some specific guidelines are provided in section 5.2 of TD1 or DL1 in Spanish. Okay. So yeah, apologize, I'm kind of used pretty much all the time available, but anyway, I'll try to answer the questions somewhat in the at least some of them in the order in the came. Okay. Okay. First of all, it says, let me check that out. We understand that there is no English version of the submission portal. What alternatives can be used for submitting a proposal in English-speaking applicants? Well, to my knowledge, let's say the portal itself doesn't have an English version, but the documents uploaded can be uploaded in English. So I assume, well, I have to check that with the legal folks here in EPE, but I assume that you could. I mean, if you are completely say ignorant of Spanish, with all respect, you could potentially translate with the Chrome feature of translating the what's being asked where, but then the actual submission will take place and will take form of PDF or Word documents, and that those can be submitted in English. So this is my assumption. If you, for example, could try a kind of a mock or like a dummy submission, and it doesn't work in any way, just let me know, and we will try to manage that. Okay. Again, we can coordinate through the Turbowave mailbox, let's say, to ensure that everyone is able to submit a bid appropriately. Can a subcontractor in one tender proposal also be applicant for the separate proposals? I think that there are some provision regarding to this when we say in one of the tender documentation, where specifically the cross subcontracting between proposals, that is one contractor leading a proposal and subcontracting another, and on the other way around, a separate proposal is considered a collusive practice, and as such, I think it wouldn't be allowed. Let's say. Again, I will try to provide a formal written answer to this, but these are my general thoughts. So. Yeah, maybe look at the collusive practices section so to fully clarify that. Okay, you talk about sharing the name of data of the OWC chamber modeling with presume includes pressure and flows. There is no mention of the name of model data on TD02 or TD03 documents. So will data be made available when will be made available and will format? Okay. Well, the plans right now is to say, because this is, that we have, I mean, technically it's data that we don't want to make publish, because essentially anyone can access the public documentation of this tender without, just by giving some names, etc. We thought that the most appropriate moment, let's say, to share this information as part of, overall basis of design assessment, or a work, was the kickoff meeting, let's say, at the very beginning of phase 1. So as we were saying, such detailed data may not be, we will say that it wasn't necessary to provide this detailed information at this point to submit like a concept proposal, but rather this is something that ideally would be carried out during phase 1. So the idea is, during the kickoff meeting for phase 1 or whatever, share that information. And the format, well, we could share it in different ways. We can share it by some Excel files with the hydrodynamic coefficient, acceleration force, damping, etc., or MATLAB format. I mean, I think we can agree into which is the most suitable tools for you to have that data, in which format, let's say. But this is something that definitely want to make the publish at the beginning of phase 1. Will they provide details on the electrical connection on the grid, including voltage level, grid information such as lower power factor, etc.? Well, if necessary and if requested by contractors, we can. Again, I don't think. I mean, ultimately, you are encouraged to contact directly by MEP, who are the owners of the plant, if you think those details are necessary for you to submit a proposal at this phase. But I would say my thinking here, and this is a personal view, is that maybe this level of detail doesn't necessarily need to come as part of the initial bid, but rather as a part of the contract execution. But it's ultimately up to your choice. You can always engage by MEP, learn more about the details on the plant, such as whatever drawings, dimensions, electrical drawings, how that's being delivered, and that's ultimately information that is gonna inform your potential solution or proposed solution for this initiative. Okay. So we as SEBE are not making that publish at this point in time, let's say. Okay, can you please provide a link to where the work format templates for TD2 and the forms submit with the proposal can be found? Yes, this is something that has been raised. I think that the best way, I mean, I could either send the work formats one by one, but maybe the best way to approach it is to just update the work format version of some of the forms, including the technical offer, and that make that available. So we are, that's noted down on our site, and we'll be doing so in the following weeks. It just adds some extra administrative work on our side to modify documents on an ongoing procedure, etc. But I think it's best way rather to go in one by one. When will the details of the electrical connection specification be provided? I think that has been already kind of answered. Is the pre-finance compulsory? This is not like, we are not, I think it's not that we are giving pre-finance and linked to that we are giving asking for a warranty, something like that. The warranty could be a prerequisite for assigning the contract, let's say, and then whether that has been requested or not, it's how we have laid out the payment scheme. In any case, it will be paid for a 30% of the value at the beginning of the project. So it's how we have planned to do that. We are not making some custom arrangement for the payments under this program. Will there be existing sensors that can be utilized for control and O&M? Are there any limitations to additional sensors that can be added to the system? Well, I guess the limitation, or is the practical. Well, of course, the ultimate decision on to what is feasible to put or not incorporate into the plan is reliant upon BMEP, which is the owner of the plant. So this is again my collection of thoughts, but this could be or should be a further confirmed down the line, let's say. But I would say the only limitation is is the practicalities of, if you require a sensor which is within the air water chamber, then of course that's going to be complicated, if doable at all from a say safety point of view. So if you plan for a sensor and equipment to be a prerequisite for your system to function, then it may be worth to contact BIMEC directly and check if they will see any problems in adding that potentially as part of a phase 2 deployment, for example, on future plans. But for a side of view, let's say as a PCP action funder, there's no that prerequisite, let's say. Does its proposal need to tackle all the requirements? In other words, can a proposal meet some of the requirements and not all? Well, the risk here is that if you score, very high in some of those and not sufficiently high in the others, that will be in technical disadvantage. And there are no minimal point thresholds associated with each of the evaluation areas. But of course, it would be the compilation of those. So, because of the competitive nature of the bids and the PCP, if you are lacking in some, experience dictates that others with a more well-rounded proposal will probably surpass you in the long run. But again, this is something that at the end of the day, evaluators, not me, will have to decide on, by assessing the proposed solutions against the set award criteria. Did you receive enough manifestation of interest to visit the Mutriku Wave Power Plant? Not really, because this is the first time I have stated the fact that this is a possibility, because in course there was silence about that. People were asking. I think we have answered that yes, it could be possible to conduct that, but we have to check if that's viable at this point in time with the short time we have before the call closes. So we'll have to see. And as I was saying, the deadline for us on confirming those who have expressed the interest and any other is February the 2nd. Okay. To add figures to the proposals, could be compiled in an annex and referenced in the text? Yes, indeed. Usage of images as part of the technical offer is somewhat discouraged. Just maybe there is no format. Just compile it into some annex sort of a slide pack, for example, and make reference to that in your technical proposal. And there's no specific prerequisite for that annex, so it's to some degree free format. Just make it in a way that it's readable and easily accessible for the evaluators. So yeah, this is the way in which bidders should complement their applications with regards to figures, graphs, images of past experiences, etc. Is there a deadline to submit the application proposal? Well, of course, yes. We have the 16th of February, 12 o'clock Spanish time. That's when and this is an automatic process. The whole PCP portal will just forbid inhabilitate any further application to the submission of any tender, let's say. So this is a hard deadline. It's not as set in some soft deadlines in a way. Can we download the slide you saw after the call? And these ones, well, we can share the slide back this one and upload it to the PCP portal too as part of the recommendation that is being shared, just as we are doing with the Q&A, etc. That's helpful. Okay, going for the last ones. Does the proposal due for 16th of February cover all three phases or just the first phase? It should be just covering the first phase. Okay, the way both in economic, in terms of project team, in terms of proposed activities, in terms of budget, the proposal is expected to only cover phase 1. And this is according to the guidelines also of the European Commission. We shouldn't be technically, let's say, the phase 2 and phase 3 proposals are separate pieces of work, let's say, and we are only evaluating what's being presented as part of phase 1. So bear that in mind. Do you have a list of software compatible with the PCP system? I guess with software, we are referring to probably electronic certificates. I don't have like a full list. There is some software, which is downloadable free of charge, which is the Dasky desktop, which is the tool that if you use that one, and yeah, that's linked in the documentation. If you are able to use that one with your electronic signature, then you should have no problems in submitting a tender for the PCPE. But again, usually in the past, at least, what setting up a usable electronic certificate has involved is contacting the support guys from the PCPE. They will ask you to provide like a public part of your private key of your certificate. They will then issue some files back and forth, let's say, and then at some point your electronic certificate will be authorized as a valid signature, let's say, for submitting a proposal. So yes, there are some experiences with doing so in the past, but if you're planning to do so, please engage with the first of all, try out those signature kind of software to see if it works without the need of any further work. But if it doesn't, try to engage with the PCPA support guys as soon as possible to make that work. Okay. So that was all. I'm conscious that I'm running quite late with regards to the proposed agenda. I was aiming to end up somewhere around 11, and it's pretty much almost 20 to 12. So yeah, and from what I'm saying here in the Q&A section, the questions posed have been captured and put me in a paper format. So yeah, I have also compiled a couple of questions from the questions have been posted previously through the mailbox that I thought was relevant. Okay, so maybe just a final quick walk through those. There is a title swap in the occurrence matrix for Mutriku Wave climate. So yes, ATS and TP levels should be swapped around. Just be aware of that. Then execution of phase one. Can you this is regarding the hydrodynamic coefficient? The yes, this will be provided at the beginning of phase one. This has been reiterated some minutes earlier. Will the connection to the grid be available, or will the power be dissipated? Well, the expectation here is that phase 3 prototypes, because we're aiming to claim 7 eventually, there should be complete standalone systems that should be fully representative of a future commercial solutions. So yeah, ideally the solution proposed will need to cover from the primary pneumatic to electrical power to the delivery of the power to the grid. That said, it is also possible to engage with BIMEP, learn about what's available there, and use available systems to actually complete your phase 3 testing. That's also possible. In case your system is compatible with the available hardware, that could also be used. But as a whole, let's say, bottom line is phase 3 proposals, or kind of concepts or solutions should be complete representative standalone systems. Would ever BIMEP provide a safety valve, or does it have to be part of the turbine group? This is related to the same answer before. As I was saying, the idea is that phase 3 prototypes are fully representative systems, and as such, if we think about safety valve providing safety features, let's say, for the solution tested, that should be embedded into what's being proposed for phase 3 in a way that the turbine, the phase 3 prototype, has its own safety mechanisms and is not reliant upon external subsystems to provide this feature. That said, it is also true that, for example, a developer could use a similar or maybe an equal system that was being actually implemented to provide this functionality, the safety functionality. But that will be to their choice, let's say. Plus, with the power electronics, there are systems that are usable, but as a whole, what we get out of phase 3 should be a complete representative standalone systems able to deliver, X functional X power, X conversion capacity, electricity delivered to the grid in a compliant way, etc. And finally, maybe on a more administrative side, sorry, should TD6 Annex 3 be signed by each one of the consortium members, or only the consortium leader? Okay, the person designated in this annex will be the one who signed as a representative of the consortium as a whole, not merely as a representative of the consortium leader. So it's the person who collectively represents the whole consortium being proposed. Okay, this is the appropriate answer. Again, yeah, some final remarks. Again, any questions, any problems with the as I was saying, the electronic certificates, any questions that may come as a consequence of this webinar or the information that has been shared in the PCPA portal, we're fully available on this mailbox. I will try to answer that as soon as possible. Okay, and for the sake of transparency, we're keeping a living record of the question posted. We also will do so with the question we have received today. We'll try to capture this into an spreadsheet and provide some anonymize them and provide some answers and make that available also in the PCPA portal for that to be available for everyone to have an equal sight on what's being answered, what's being asked, let's say, sorry, and what's being answered to that. Okay, and that's all. So if we or we all have managed to survive this webinar. As you were saying, just let me know if there's interest for a technical visit next week on the first place, so we can arrange that as soon as possible. And besides that, just would like to wish you the best of the luck in the next days to establish a good project team and submission of the bids, etc. And yeah, hope to learn about your systems and proposals soon. So that's all from my side. Thank you everyone for joining today. And apologize for running late. Okay. Bye.